Good afternoon, good evening. This is Amos Maingi, a physiotherapist from Physiotech Rehab Associates, and today we are going to discuss about cerebral palsy. Before we discuss cerebral palsy, I am joined together by
Bernard Jero, who is a physiotherapist.
So, Daktari, tell us about cerebral palsy. What is cerebral palsy?
So that's a very nice question that you have asked today. Cerebral palsy, it's a very predominant physical conditions that we are seeing nowadays. So cerebral palsy generally is non-progressive neurological disorder that comes as a result of injury to the brain before complete cerebral development. It is usually characterized with movement problems, postural problems, and much more.
I tend to understand that cerebral palsy doesn't just occur or develop just that way. There are some of the predisposing factors which make cerebral palsy to happen. So you can just tell us, what are those factors which increase the risk of developing cerebral palsy?
That's a very nice question. Of course, we have a blanket of risk factors that can contribute to one getting cerebral palsy. And one of the factors, we shall group them into perinatal, prenatal, and postnatal factors. In postnatal factors, mostly we find if there is viral infections, for instance, viral encephalitis. We find bacterial meningitis. We find sometimes hyperbilirubinemia. We find even if there is an injury during when the child is developing and all that. Whenever we are talking about perinatal, we just mean by the complications that will arise during delivery, and which also will include things like asphyxia. We also have prenatal problems, which generally it's all about maternal problems and the embryogenic development of this child that might trigger the problem with development of this child, which can contribute to cerebral palsy.
Yeah. Nice. So, is CP just one thing, one condition, or CP has several types? You can just tell us if there are some types of the CP, kindly.
That's a very nice question. So when we talk about cerebral palsy, there are different types. For instance, we have one that is very predominant, which is spastic CP. We have others like adetoid CP, and we also have others like adetoid is also the same as dyskinetic, and we also have ataxic. All this depends on which part of the brain has been affected, because when we talk about spastic CP, we usually say the cerebral cortex has been damaged, especially the motor cortex. When we talk about ataxic, we usually mean that the cerebellum has been damaged. And when we talk about adetoid or dyskinetic, we usually mean that the basal ganglia has been damaged.
Okay, thank you. And does it mean that those types of CPs present just with the same presentation, or they have different presentation as per each type of the CP?
So both of all those have different presentations. For instance, when we come about spastic CP, which we have said is predominant, we shall be experiencing some things like spasticity will be there. We expect things like tremors. We expect even walking, the patient will have a scissor gait with toe walking. We also have other things like hypertonicity will be there, and so many others. So when we talk about dyskinetic, or what we are calling adetoid CP, it's also a different form, because what we shall see in this is we usually say abnormal slow breathing movements, especially of the hearts, of the arms, of the feet, and the legs. And when we talk about now the ataxic, we usually say that the balance and coordination is tremendously impaired.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. Okay. Does cerebral palsy has some of the complications, or just those presentation just that whole? Does it have some of the complications associated with it?
That's a very good question, Amos. The presentation, the complications are there because and most of these complications, let's just first list them. You'll find that the first one is there will be spasticity, there will be things like contractures. Apart from these, because of immobility, you are likely to get osteopenia, we are going to get osteoporosis, you are going to get fractures, pathological fractures, you are going to get things like spinal deformities like scoliosis, which is very prominent. You're also going to get secondary problems that will arise as a result of that. And these secondary problems, some of them might be aspirational pneumonia, because we know these people may present also with problem with gastrointestinal problems like constipations and all that. So it's an umbrella of complications in it. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. It seems nice that cerebral palsy can be managed. So you can manage as a physician, you can manage also as a physiotherapist, as speech therapist, as occupational therapist, and many more of those medical practitioners. You can just tell us who is this multidisciplinary team and what does they do each? Kindly.
Yeah, that's a very nice thing. So when we come to about management, we usually say that we are not managing to cure and we are not managing to bring normalcy, but we are trying to prevent more complications and more problems that will arise in case we don't pay attention to it. And one of the multidisciplinary teams that will be involved, one of them is the physician. So the physician will ensure the overall health. We have said these people will come with secondary problems like aspirational pneumonia. They may also predispose to the gastrointestinal problems. So they also will be managed by the physician. So when we come to people like the surgeons, the orthopedic surgeon, they will be involved in the surgical operations wherever there is contractures, whenever there is hip subluxations and hip fractures, which is very common because of the muscular imbalance and the spasticity. When we come to physios who have a very great role, so physiotherapy have a great role in this, because our work is to ensure we bring function, we bring capabilities of these people, we ensure that we bring them back to the society in terms of societal fitting, to make them fit in the society and ensure the independence is achieved. So physios also has a lot to do, and in fact physios are the primary clinicians in this, because they really do a lot. So when we come to occupational therapists, they will also ensure that they facilitate the activities of daily livings and all that. So when we talk about nutritionists, about the diet, the speech therapist, to ensure the speech stimulations and all that. So when we talk about people like social worker, who will ensure that they link them to the opportunities within the society levels, the psychologist, who will ensure they work with them and the caregiver and the families in case one feels overwhelmed. And it's a spectrum of multidisciplinary approach.
Wow, 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 wow. So after managing, but before managing still, there's a way you can there are some of the tools you can use to diagnose or assess and ascertain this is cerebral palsy but not another condition. So you can just tell us what are these tools and how do you diagnose as a medical practitioner that this is cerebral palsy and not another condition?
So that's a very nice question. So nowadays, because of evidence and because we want to ensure that we track the progress, they have been production of evidence-based tools for the assessment, and one of these tools is child health questionnaire. The other one you can monitor the spasticities with a modified dashboard scale. Other ones will include of course it's a lot of tools that will really be involved in the assessment of this and track the progress.
Wow, it's nice, very nice. At least I've got to understand that cerebral palsy is an progressive disorder, and also got to know some of the types of the cerebral palsy, also the presentations, the complications, and how as a physiotherapist I can diagnose and assess. So with that, we are going to introduce our guest today, and he's here. Welcome, Dr. DJ.
Hi.